Today I'm going to do a walkthrough of this Alice in Wonderland mini album in a footed box. Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. I am part of the Paperstashsmash collab, and one of the papers I wanted to use was this Alice in Wonderland collection from Stamperia. I have had this collection maybe 5 years, maybe longer, and I don't know, it just wasn't speaking to me. But I did say that I was going to possibly use it, and one of my viewers said, I'd love to see something on that. So I said, okay, I'll do it. So it was time. So let me show you what I made. It is a mini album. It is a 6.5 by 8.5 mini album, and I had some extra paper left over, so I made this box. It also was a way of using these feet that have been in my stash for quite a while as well. Let me show you the mini album, and then I'll show you the box. And I'll also tell you that there is a tutorial already. I used a tutorial of my own from, I had used it to, with the honeybee collection, and I do have this cut file available in my Kofi shop. I'll put the link in the description box. I used I'll tell you a little bit about the tutorial as I go, because I veered off of it, but it's basically the same tutorial. As I said, it's 6.5 by 8.5. It's got a 2-inch spine? No. 2.5-inch spine, and with everything, it makes it a little over 3 inches tall. I did things on this book that I don't always do. Not because I don't like it, because I forget. But I added some of these metal embellishments to the corner. I had this key hole metal object in my stash. I added a dangle. I mean, I did all the things. I also, you can't tell, but these are layered. So this I added to a piece of chipboard, and this I added to a piece of chipboard. I inked around the edges and glued and taped them real well onto the mini album cover. And also, I'll show you first what paper I used, and I almost used it all. So let me show you that now. Okay, so here's the collection. Now somehow I ended up with 4 background 8 by 8 collections. I think I ordered 2 and forgot I ordered 2, so I ordered 2 more. But it was a good thing I had those because I used almost all of it up. I forget how many papers, but here you can see they're just background papers, but they really did come in handy to help supplement the 12 by 12 paper. At the end, I was like, what am I going to do with there was all these chessboard prints of diamonds. That was diamonds, I think, and spades and whatever. But I used those on the hidden photo map pages. So there was 4 of those all together. Here's the collection plus. Oh, I'm starting from the back. Turn it over. All right, there we go. So there is the front of the collection. So there were the cut aparts on the front, and I used a lot of those, almost all of those. So I cut apart the front, so I don't know how old this collection is. Now, it's beautiful paper, but I had to challenge myself on how to use some of these full sheets of paper. Of course, there were ones like this cut apart, and I had several extra of those cut aparts. I liked the back side of those, and I used that in a couple of different spots too. I'll show you as I take you through the album. So for instance, this one, I picked up a couple of extra sheets. I had 2 of these, I think. So I used some of those throughout the album, especially like the Twiddledee and Twiddledee-Dum. Actually, I used that for the cover too. Now this was from a totally different collection, but the color matched, and so I used that on the front of the album, and I think somewhere inside. I don't know what collection it was, but I used that. So the interesting thing was, like, the back of this was different on the collection, that the page that came with the collection. So there's another one. I had 3 of those. I'm back to just one of these. I think I just had one of those. But those were nice to cut apart. I like that. Here's another full-size sheet, so you have to plan ahead on how to use that. I liked the teapot, and I ended up using it on the box. Loved this sheet with the tea collection too. What I ended up doing is turning them sideways. I'll show you as I go through the walkthrough. But I wanted to show you, to begin with, what I had to start with. This one page with the cards, I did not use it all, at all. I still have it in my stash. I used a lot of those cut aparts. So that is the paper that I had. Now I also had this collection of chipboard die cuts. I didn't use them as much as I thought, but I used a lot of them. Here, let me lay them out for you and show you what we've got. All right, now since I don't have a tutorial on this specifically, I'm going to tell you a little bit of the details on how I put it together as I do a walkthrough. So, yeah, so for instance, this key, I added an extra piece of chipboard below because, like I said, I put this on chipboard and then used the brads to attach it, and I used E6000 to add that. And I used E6000 to these metal elements too. This is a cut apart, and I added this Alice from the title sheet on chipboard just to, again, give it a little dimension. I'm going to show you the spine and the back. So the spine, I did put an eyelet there, and I had this dangle in my stash. I added a key to it, and then I added this little bottle that I glued the top on. I glued this little eye hook into and added it onto the dangle, and I just wrote on a piece of paper, "Eat me." I wasn't sure if I should have had "drink me." I don't know. But I put some glitter in there that sort of matched with that. By the end, I didn't have any full sheets, so I'm using scraps. There was this one little piece that it was the stripy piece, and it just added a nice dimension. I just cut this and this and that and that and just added that to the back. And of course, these are chipboard elements. So that is the covers, and let's go inside. So for the front inside cover, this is not in the tutorial, but all I did is take one of the cut aparts, add it onto some cardstock, and made it just a interactive element that you could put a photo there. Now, you could put a photo to take up this whole sheet, or you could put a photo that just is 1 3/4 by 3. I did mat this with several different pieces of cardstock from my stash. The chipboard elements of the flowers I added right there. So this was in the original tutorial, but I added the pocket to it. And the reason I did is because there were these fabulous cut aparts that fit perfectly into that pocket. I didn't add too much to this just because I already have a magnet on it and I didn't want it to get too thick, but that's a good spot for a picture and maybe some journaling. One other thing I did is, if you make the album according to the directions, you don't have to worry about it, because the album gives you 6 pages. I had in my stash the same size mini album, a 6.5 by 8.5 mini album, but it only had 5 pages. To remedy that, I simply added a large flap onto the first page to make an extra set of pages. So it's got the same number of pages as the tutorial, but it doesn't have the same number of base pages, if that makes any sense to you. So here I just added this as like a cheater pocket, meaning it's just glued on 3 sides. I just liked this little element, and I liked this little element, and it fit in there perfectly. And another tag from the cut apart sheet. This was in the instructions, and I did take some paper and covered it. Now, there were some of these in the cut-apart sheet, and I liked them, especially this. Every adventure requires a first step. I thought that was important to have in the beginning, so I just added that. And again, good spot to put photos, and there as well. I did put a magnet on the back of here just to hold it, and I get my magnets from Total Element Magnets. So here, I don't know if this was in the original instructions, but I did use a chipboard element there, and this opens up and that opens up. So these were cut aparts. This was a chipboard element I just glued on the bottom, and that was a cut apart. So you could use that as a tuck spot up at the top, or you could use that as a tuck spot there, and then this holds it all together. I did add this little element. It was off of one of the papers. I like to do that. It just adds a little touch of something to it. So this, I sized this specifically to go with the cut aparts. That's what I'm saying. I veered a little bit off of the original album. I mean the original tutorial. But what's great about this is it gives you lots of room for photos. So this goes open like that. So there's a good spot for photo. Now here, I just added this. I added some brads to the side just to break up all of this. And then this will come up. And then this will also all come down. And then there's room for photos and photos there. So let's say that's a photo. You could put it there. You could put it there. So anyhow, that's ample room to put your photographs in this album. Okay, so now, as I said, this album had 5 pages. There were 5 base pages, and they all had room for pockets. They all were pocket pages, room for a photo mat. So I did put photo mats in the pages. This is where I used up all of that heart and diamond and whatnot. So these mats are 6 by 7 3/4. There's 5 of them, so 10 sides. So you could put 10 5 by 7s if you wanted to in the book, as well as room for all photos there, so you can see them peeking out. So there is that. Okay, now here I sort of stuck with the album tutorial, just putting that back in so it's not crooked. There was this magnetic belly band, so that'll open like that, and then this will come down, and that will go up. And you still could put a photo there. You could put a photo on the whole page if you wanted to, but there's enough room for photos that you don't have to cover everything. So you could put a small photo if you wanted to, but again, there's room on these flaps to put regular size photos. Here's one of the larger chipboard elements, and I loved it. I did cut some cardstock to go around it, and then that made a nice little magnetic closure. And so there we go. And then see, this is what I was talking about. Some of these pages were so nice, I really didn't want to cut into them. So I left it. You still could put small photos if you wanted to here, or just tuck the photos in here and leave the elements as they are. I left the page pretty much as it was, although I did add this cut apart to that. I mean, this is the original illustrations, not Lewis Carroll's illustrations, but that first illustrator that he had, Tenny. And these are the ones that everybody is familiar with. There is the hidden photo mat for that page. Another page where I show you where I'm showing you how I cut down this 12 by 12 image. I just cut down this one at the top and had the Cheshire Cat at the top flap, and then Alice is on the bottom flap. I didn't add too much to this, although I did take a little cut apart and cut out the small cat and made him a little tuck spot, but otherwise I left it pretty similar. Here I stack some of the chipboard elements. Yeah, I just added a little bit of interest. Now there is one of these large images. I didn't want to do anything with it because the back was very cool too. I think I did have 2 of these pages, so I could have layered it, but I just decided to leave it as it is. Put it there. You could use this for journaling on the back, or add a photo if you want, or just leave it because it's fun. Here's another one of those images. And again, see, that's so beautiful. So that's why I didn't mat all of those. If I didn't have too many of them, I didn't mat. There is our hidden photo mat. Loved this one. So these actually were portrait style. I made them landscape style. I just took some of the plainer ones that didn't have any images, fussy cut some of the teapots from some of the other ones and glued them on. I also added some glossy accents. I don't know if you could see it, but here you can see it. Just a little bit, enough to add a little interest to that. And then, of course, this opens, and this was from the 8x8 paper, those teapots. This was some of that paper. This actually was on this side, and I just moved it over just because I liked how it was here. So there is that. Loved that teapot image. And then there is a cut apart. I did back it with some of this paper and made a tuck spot from one of the cut aparts. And of course I have magnets in there. Okay, so this is just an interesting little bit of room to add lots of little elements. So here I have a chipboard element, and I just glued it so it's a tuck spot. That's actually the paper. That is a cut apart. I glued some of the teapot cut aparts. You could still put a little photo there if you wanted to, or journal. And then it comes down like that and then stays closed. So this actually isn't a pocket because it goes through. You could glue it if you wanted it a pocket. But here were some of those teapot images. I just matted those on cardstock and added some plain paper on the back. These were where I got the teapots to cut to put there. I just liked having this tea, the 2 pages. All right, this is a side loading pocket. Here's Twiddledee and Twiddledee and Twiddledum. This, incidentally, I had 2 of these. This is what I used for the front cover. See, I just covered it up with another cut apart. But that was pretty in that pocket. Used some of the chipboard elements here. Otherwise, this was one of those 12 by 12 pages. So that I had cut out. Oh, I don't remember where I cut it out from. But I just cut it out and left it there. And that is that page. Here is our hidden photo mat. This is the last page, so this will go up. Like, lots of room for photos here. That'll come down. It actually will go like that and like that. So there's lots of room there, and there's room there to add whatever you want. So I took another metal element. I added one of the hearts to the top. I love this page, the paper. I thought it was pretty. Added this across to break it up. This is that paper that came from another paper collection. I actually even left the branding strip on top because it was interesting. And left this pocket. I always like to have pockets with flaps in the back. So this is where you can add everything else that didn't fit anywhere in the book. So we are back at the back cover. So there is that, and here is the box. I took some of the chipboard elements. This I put Wonderland that I fussy cut from somewhere and put it there. I had a couple of little heart enamel dot kind of things, and I thought that was pretty on there. And as you can see, I put the legs there. This is the back of it. So you could always have that in the front if you wanted to, but I liked these, and I liked how they went with Alice. It just made sort of a nice grouping. Let me give you a measurement for this, and I'm just going to show you what I used to put this together. This is 2 by 7, so it's 2 inches high, 7 inches long, and 3 3/4 inch wide. There's ample room, so once you fill up the book with photos, there's still room for it to expand. I just used a lot of the leftover paper to decorate it. That's on the bottom. I don't have instructions on how to make the box. I basically took the chipboard and covered it, and then took 1-inch strips or whatever, maybe it was 3/4 of an inch, scored it in half, and used that to attach everything. So I had 1 by 7, 1, 2 on the outside, 3, 4, and then 1 by 3 3/4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I had 2 by 1s, 8 of them for the outside and inside, and I just attached it and then decorated it. Let me show you what I put it together with. Hang on. Okay, pretty rudimentary, but you can figure it out from there. All right, and that is it. I'm going to add photographs for this into my honeybee tutorial. So if you're looking for the cutting guide, I'll link that. I'll link the tutorial on how I made the honeybee album, at least the base. Hopefully I didn't confuse you with making it out of 5 pages instead of 6, but if you follow these instructions, you'll be in good shape as far as most of the things. Like I said, there were a couple of pages that I adjusted based on the cut-aparts that came with this collection. But it's just paper, so if you were to cut it out, just cover it with the right size paper. That is what I wanted to show you today. I'm so glad that I finished this. It was one of those papers that, like I said, I wasn't feeling it, and once I got into it, I enjoyed the process immensely. So I will list this in my Etsy shop. Obviously it comes with the album and the stand, so hopefully somebody who enjoys Alice in Wonderland will appreciate that. All right, that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and have a fabulous day.